Team Canada just won gold in what is my favorite World Juniors in the last 10 years. Let's talk about it. As always, for these longer videos, I'm going to include timestamps on screen and down below, so if you want to skip to a particular section, you can do so. Alright, so the Canada-Czechia gold medal game, and this was a very interesting one. The Czechs, having just barely won an emotional game against Sweden, were guaranteed their first World Junior medal since 2005, but obviously they wanted gold. Canada, on the other hand, was playing to be the first back-to-back winner in a decade. Czechia beat Canada in the opening game of the round robin. They've showed really great team play, and both Canada and Czechia have gotten good goaltending in the tournament. So, starting with the first period, it felt all Canada to me. Canada was getting good chances, and not like in past games where players were using their skill to drive to the net, simply breaking down the enemy team individually. Here we were seeing pucks being thrown at the goaltender, looking for rebounds, behind the net setups, good passing, etc. Canada also started off the first with a really strong penalty kill, and at 11 minutes in, Bedard scored, but it was rightfully and almost immediately called back because, while dancing with the puck, he pulled it over the blue line. Canada would get a power play 9 minutes into the first, and they were absolutely controlling play. In my notes, I wrote that it feels like they could pull off whatever they wanted. The Czechs were playing Bedard pretty closely, not just on the power play, but all game really, and they did a good job of shutting him down. However, Gunther would get the puck and with a beautiful shot would put Canada up 1-0. Near the end of the first, Bedard would misplay the puck in the O zone. It would go the other way, and Czechia would get a breakaway. Milic, however, who I've got to say, the dude had pretty much a dream tournament, really did not feel like letting this one in and maintained the 1-goal lead for Canada, who would have a few more really good chances to end off the period. I think Canada had a good overall second period as well, especially defensively. There was a scary moment, however, where the Czech goalie got hit pretty hard. I thought he was going to go out, but thankfully he was alright. Canada would have an incredibly strong penalty kill where they'd get 2 short-handed breakaways, and at 16:20, Bedard with a beautiful poke check pass would set up another breakaway, but still the score was 1-0. And it would remain that way until Shane Wright got easily his nicest goal of the tournament. It was a nasty 2-on-0 toe drag backhand with players draped all over him. I mean, what can you say about this? Just an absolutely monster individual effort goal you sometimes see, especially from NHL caliber players at this tournament. After that, Canada did a great job of locking it down, and that was pretty much the case until halfway through the third. I think these first 2 periods were Canada's best defensively of the tournament. And yeah, Czechia still had chances, but that's what happens in these wide open World Junior games, and that's why they're so fun. A couple of weird penalties at the end. There was one, I think, for kicking a stick, and then a too many men penalty, but they resulted in nothing. Anyway, into the third. The highlight of this was obviously 10 minutes in when we saw Stevie Y, who saw Canada win a gold medal and didn't even crack a smile. But with 8 minutes left, Czechia would get their first goal, sort of a weird bounce, where the player almost rainbow kicked it into the O zone. The initial shot wasn't super dangerous, but a defensive breakdown in front of the net let Kulich finish off the sequence with a tap-in, 2-1. Less than a minute later, what felt like a pretty harmless shot bounced in off Del Mastro for a 2-2 game. Obviously, the loss of a 2-goal lead was concerning for myself, a Canadian fan, but was also scary to see in the third was that it felt like, especially after the goals, that Canada's scoring chances really dried up. The game nearly ended with a bit of an unforced error at the end of the third. A missed tap on the red line resulted in a Canadian icing, and a tired team led up a very dangerous scoring chance. And Canada's been pretty bad in front of the net through this entire tournament, so it was very relieving to see them get that puck cleared. Still, I felt pretty confident Canada would win going into the overtime, more so even than the game against the Slovaks. And yeah, I thought Canada dominated 3-on-3. The Czechs just didn't play the game well. When you're 3-on-3, possession is absolutely key. There were lots of cases where Czech players were gaining the blue line, then just going into a battle against 2 men or even 1 man, and Canada would get that turnover. And that's actually kind of what led to the goal. Czech player would lose the puck, it would lead to an odd man rush, and Waugh, the hero of the semis, gave it to Gunther, who did not miss. That being said, the Czechs deserve a lot of credit. Their players were being forced into one-on-one defensive situations against Canada's big forwards, and they were holding extremely well. And I mean, you get to 3-on-3 overtime, and it's a bounce. So this could have went either way. Congrats to the Czech Republic for winning their first medal in 20 years, and congrats to Canada for repeating on gold. This was, however, a game I thought Canada did deserve to win, so I'm personally glad, of course, that it went that way. way. So some final thoughts on the tournament. First of all, as a Haligonian, i.e. a person from Halifax, it's been such a wonderful experience to have this tournament back here after 20 years. I actually got to see a few games, I think maybe just one or two, when the tournament was here in 2003 with my dad. Yes, I'm a lot older than many of you. And I saw 4 this time. I actually made it to the bronze medal game with my son. We got tickets for super cheap. I think it was $40 for the both of us. Had really good seats. But I also made it to last night's US-Canada game. I made it to the Sweden game on New Year's Eve, and I made it to Canada-Austria. I mean, such exciting events. If I could have gotten one of the ticket lotteries, I would have bought the entire package, but still, so much fun. And I'm really glad that people enjoyed the Halifax crowd. The city was absolutely bumping. The crowd was unlike anything I'd ever experienced, just phenomenal. And I'm glad that a few people I've seen online have fallen in love with the city of Halifax and even wanted to visit. Also, ticket usage is the highest it's ever been. I think they said like 98% of tickets were used, which is incredible. I hope the IIHF takes notice and puts tournaments back in not only Halifax, but cities like Halifax and Moncton, of course. Canadian cities which have a junior team maybe, but not an NHL team, because the tournament is the biggest thing here. My only regret is that I drove after the game last night because I was downtown for like half an hour and it just seemed like so fun. But anyway, I also think it's awesome just how high the level of competition was this year. Everyone knows that Canada, Sweden, the US, Finland are all going to be pretty good, but to see the Slovaks and the Czechs really step up this year, just really cool. I think the tournament's also in a good place structurally. I know it's been this way for, I think, 20 years now. It used to just be one round and the team that had the most points win. That sucks. One thing that I would like to see is maybe some form of promotional system tied into the main tournament. Like, a lot of this stuff is done based on IIHF rankings, and I know that there are other tournaments which decide things like this, but I think it would be cool to see more diverse teams from hockey countries we don't see as often. Maybe you make the group pool a little bit larger, maybe you add 2 more teams, but also have a pool which is playing games at the same time, and maybe the top 2 or 3, maybe even 4 teams move up to the bigger pool. I don't know, I think there's something you could do while also showcasing more hockey around the world, even though we are seeing more and more countries getting good. Also, guys, I got my bracket almost completely right. I did get the bronze medal game wrong. I'll talk about that very briefly. I was at that game today. It was incredibly entertaining. I mean, you can't ask for more. Goals on goals on goals. I did think Sweden would win just because I thought the bronze might mean more to them. I don't know why, really. Kind of a dumb thing in hindsight. But I mean, good for the Americans. I was really, really impressed by their play last night. They were all over Canada effort-wise. They were checking the sack off them. Just great play. They definitely could have taken that one. This was also a tournament, I think, just for sort of closing thoughts, where the storylines were really interesting. Like, it's not often you see a player live up to the hype to the way Bedard did this year. Is his game perfect? Certainly not. However, I think it will develop in a really interesting way as he ages. He's not really super strong now. He can sometimes be a bit too loose with the puck. In the Slovak game, for example, I was worried about him as a bit of a liability, but like, I also don't even really know how I would describe how he plays. He just dominates offensively. He doesn't have like the pure turn on the jets absolute speed of McDavid. However, he's still great with puck possession, and of course he's got that incredible vision and that almost Matthews-like shot. The real surprise, shocking thing for me, however, was Milic. If Canada didn't have phenomenal goaltending, they don't win gold medal, and that was sort of one of the stated weaknesses going into the tournament. This dude hasn't even been drafted yet. He's going to get a lot of attention. Like I said, pretty much the dream tournament. I could not be happier for the guy. But that's all for me. Let me know your thoughts. What game of the tournament was your favorite? I think for me, it's got to be the Sweden one. Just the atmosphere at the Metro Center, the Scotiabank Center, was unreal. Let me know your thoughts below, though. What will you remember about this tournament, you think, in 10 years? The Czechs were playing McDavid pretty McDavid, fuck sakes.